Welcome to Pod Me If You Can, Lloyd. What's the film today?
Today's film is Mesmerized. Now, I chose this film from this 10-pack of Hollywood leading women. Fans of Pod Me If You Can TV know I've already reviewed a movie from this 10-pack called Kill Crew, starring the beautiful Elizabeth Hurley. If you haven't seen that film, go check it out. It's a good one. And check out the review. Definitely just go back. This film stars John Lithgow and Jodie Foster, and it came out in 1986. It's also based on a true story, which I find very unbelievable. Set in New Zealand, 1880, orphan Victoria, played by Jodie Foster, is set to an arranged marriage to a successful merchant, Oliver Thompson, played by John Lithgow. Victoria is young and 17 and is hopeful that marriage will be a positive stage in life. Oliver is a rough-talking man with some really creepy sexual desires. He likes to stare at Victoria undressing through a peephole. Victoria is obviously very uncomfortable with the marriage and seeks to leave her husband and see the world. She befriends Oliver's brother George, who is a quiet and polite gentleman, a huge contrast to his aggressive brother. The two try to run away together, but Oliver finds them. There is a scuffle, and Victoria, aiming for Oliver, accidentally hits George in the head with a heavy candle holder. Although George survives and is forced to move away, Oliver tells Victoria that he is dead, but he's covered it up so no one will know. This ensures Victoria's loyalty to her husband, and she becomes more obedient but also melancholy. Some years later, Victoria finds letters hidden in the house that have been sent from George. She finds out that George is actually alive and is deeply in love with her. Angry, she poisons Oliver and is put on trial for his murder. Now, there are huge issues with this movie. Let's just start with the title. Firstly, when this movie came out in 1986, it was called My Letter to George. It bombed miserably at the movies and was later re-released on VHS as Shocked, and then re-released again as Mesmerized, which would explain the title sequence, probably the worst I have ever seen in movie history. It looks like it was done in paint. It's really awful. There are some really interesting sexuality in this film, like really interesting elements. At the beginning of the film, we find Jodie Foster at an orphanage, and there's some ambiguity to her sexuality, but it's never explored. Also, John Lithgow's character, he's got obviously very perverted sexual desires, but it's introduced, but they never really go through with it and follow through. Personally, I think the sexuality elements or the psychosexual elements in the script was just beyond the director here, just beyond his reach. He wasn't capable of really developing it. This is one of the worst directed and edited movies I have ever seen. The editing is really jarring. There are heaps of times I have no idea who's in a room, who's talking and stuff like that. It's also got some of the worst composition and worst camera movements I've seen in any movie. And when you got really bad camera movements, you get really boring films, because I was so bored in this movie despite its lean 89-minute duration. The film also portrays John Lithgow as a bad guy, and you can tell Jodie Foster is unhappy with the marriage. She wants to, see the world, divorce him. She's well ahead of her time in a time when women are just obedient housewives. But I just don't see John Lithgow as the villain in this movie. I see Jodie Foster more as the villain. I know he's rough talking, he's unpolished, he has very weird sexual desires that makes Jodie Foster uncomfortable, but it just doesn't merit his murder, because he gets poisoned and it is a slow, painful death he goes through. He provides for her, he does love her in his own way. There are scenes that show that, but I don't know, just once he gets poisoned and he starts dying, I just saw Jodie Foster more as the villain. Jodie Foster's character is so glazed over, you're never entirely sure what's going on behind her eyes. She's a very distant main character. Maybe in the original script it cried out for a more 2-hour duration, but in here she's just seemed too distant to understand what was going in her mind and why she did the things she did and stuff like that. There is also a hypnosis element in the film. Basically, she meets up with the town reverend, and he's a really worldly guy. He's traveled the world, studied cultures, and he's into hypnosis and gives her a book on it. And either she hypnotizes her husband or she's under hypnosis. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Again, things are introduced in this movie but never defined or explored. Now, the best scene in this movie is when John Lithgow is dying and the doctor, in hope to save him, starts pulling out his teeth. I'm assuming that's one of the medical treatments to cure whatever he's got. And it is a very primeval scene. So much so, I think it even rivals, if not surpasses, Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs ear-cutting sequence. It's really hard to watch. And Jodie Foster walks in the room and stares at her husband. The husband stares at Jodie Foster, sits up, picks up the pulled teeth from a bowl and throws it at her, and they both stare at each other. The scene is so intense and so well performed by the actors. It bespeaks so much on what this movie could have been, and it's really disappointing. This is a very poorly crafted movie, one of the worst I've ever seen. 2 solid performances by the leads, but I think it does feel like the producers got the scissors in on this film, but I don't know, just with the scenes that were left over, I don't even think if you were to even hire Thelma Schumacher, who's Martin Scorsese's editor, I don't even think she could save this movie.
Because she's a New Zealander, or playing a New Zealander, how's Jodie Foster's accent?
It's alright, it's pretty good. I think I noticed more John Lithgow's accent coming in and out a bit,
Okay.
but I think they both did a pretty good job.
All right, Mesmerized 1986. Find more reviews at our YouTube channel and find more of us at www.podmeifyoucan.com.